Hey, welcome back, students. In this video, I want to go ahead and talk to you about tips for writing formulas for covalent compounds. So in the next couple of seconds, you're going to see me write all the formula steps for compounds that have cations, both type 1 and type 2. And I'm going to go ahead and compare that with the steps that we're going to use generally for naming, or rather for writing formulas for compounds that have covalent atoms in them. All right, so let me go ahead and pause, and then I'll write that out, and then we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so here are the general steps for writing compounds that have cations, both type 1 and type 2 metals. What I want to go through here is talk to you a little bit about the steps that you're going to need to do or follow when you're trying to name covalent compounds. And so let me show you this here in a second. Let me just go ahead and separate this out, and we're going to put this over here in slightly different color. So let me use maybe perhaps a little bit of a greenish yellow color for it. And so here we go on this side. All right, so keep in mind, whenever we're starting this process, the starting point here is you're going to have a name given to you. And so the steps that we're going to utilize here are going to be pretty simple. However, covalent compounds are different than everybody else. Covalent compounds are going to involve the use of prefixes. And so you got to make sure that you identify these prefixes in your formula. So the very first step that I would say to you would be very similar to what it says here on the cation version, is you want to go ahead and identify the positive and the negative side of the compound. But the very second thing that you want to go ahead and do is you want to look for prefixes. And then you want to go ahead and change that to numbers. Okay? Once you've done that, the next thing that you want to do is what would be the other step here. You want to go ahead and write down the symbol for the atoms. So, and for that is going to be for the atom that's pretending to be the cation and the negative atom, or the anion. Okay. Now, remember that the first atom in covalent compounds is going to be a nonmetal, so don't get confused and write a negative charge for it. But go ahead and change that over to the symbol first, and then once you've got that, you want to make sure that you write the number atoms as a subscript. And this is going to be equal to the prefix that you identified earlier in step 2 for each of the atoms. And then once you're done with that, then you're just going to go ahead and write down the formula. Notice in these steps here, I did not even mention anything about charge, and largely because covalent compounds, they're not taking electrons away from one another, and they're not going to be taking those electrons in the sense that it's causing it to be a definite positive or a definite negative. What's going on here with these covalent compounds is that they're sharing those electrons, and because of that, you get a different effect going on with respect to charge. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and look at an example, and we'll see what we're talking about here. So let's go over here. We'll eliminate the left side. And so let's take one general formula here, or name, and then we'll go from there. All right, so here's an example. We have dihydrogen monoxide. Many of you would have seen this on the homework assignment. And so here's what I want to do. I want to go ahead and identify the parts. So if we go ahead and split this out, remember the rule that we had when we were going and writing, looking at formulas and figuring out charges, we split out the first atom, and that was the positive one. We're going to do a similar thing here. Is we're going to look at the word, and we're going to go ahead and take this and split it off here. Here's how we know that this is the positive side, and here's the negative. Okay, now we're going to look at this a little bit closer, but now the next thing is to look for these prefixes. And notice here, we've got a prefix right here in this area here, and then we've got this mono part also prefix. The next step then, according to our procedure here, is to write down that prefix and change it into a number. So this di is actually a 2, and then the mono is actually a 1. Then according to step 3, I want to go ahead and write down the symbol for the atom represented in the positive side. In this case here, hydrogen, the symbol for that is just going to be H. And then the oxide portion here, notice it's a negatively charged anion. This is going to be the oxygen. And then I'm going to go ahead and write down the atoms as with the subscript. So I'm going to bring down this hydrogen, and I'm going to bring down the oxygen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little 2 here for the dihydrogen, and this actually is going to go right down here as a subscript. And so let me erase all this stuff here that I just wrote, but essentially what you're going to do is you're going to put that 2 down here. And then the oxygen's going to have the 1 that's going to go right below it here. And so let me just do that for both. It'll go right there. Now, because typically we don't write the 1, what we'll do here is we'll eliminate that 0 here. We'll move this a little bit closer here. We'll move this a little bit closer. And let me just rewrite it all the way through for you. This would be H2O, commonly known as water. And so that's the way that we kind of get that formula there for a covalent compound. If you have any questions, see me in class, but keep watching, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next video.